I don't know enough to advise her about her migrant status. I like I said earlier, I'm worried about it, and I would like to learn more how
So
we can help these people.
here's the one bit of advice I can give you, Pam. If you look inside the 3-ring binder that we gave out to everyone, there's a card in there that has 211 numbers, and it has a whole list of numbers that you can call, and one of them would also be immigration lawyer.
Okay. Oh, good. Okay.
So that might be the best one to do.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I think we should get started. I'm going to go ahead and do a share here and bring up the slides. I hope all of you had a chance to look at them, and I hope it helped you a little bit.
Yes.
So let's see. I think I'll jump right into it. Usually I do introductions, but I thought that since we have a lot of people, we might be better off just spending our time actually talking about the survival skills. I don't think I did a real good job of explaining it to the new recruits. We had so many questions and everyone started panicking. So I want to just take my time and make sure that we have enough time to get all of those questions answered. So which survival skills do we teach and when? Here they are. We have emergencies, healthcare, school communications, employment and training, economics and banking, and DMV. And notice we've got our new one on there now, navigating our community. And we have several tutors who have been with us for several years. So I'm thrilled with that because they'll be able to add their own input on this also. So we will talk a little bit about navigating our community as well. So one of the questions was, these are the ones that we teach. The other question was when? And the simple answer for it is, we teach 2 of them a year. The state pays us $100 for every one of these that we turn in, but they only allow for 2. So if we do 2 a year, that's 200 times 100 students. So that's a potential $20,000 toward our budget. We don't want to be teaching this for the money, but it does help us expand the program, buy materials for our students, like giving them, new students get their first workbook for free, and they get to check out the side-by-side book. So we just want to make sure that they have that possibility that we have materials for them. Last year, we had less than half of what we could have earned by doing these. And some of it is just because people are uncomfortable doing it. They're not used to doing it. So we want to get all of you comfortable sharing the life survival skills, feeling comfortable and sharing that with your students. So when do we do it? We do one in the spring and we do one in the fall. Our fiscal year actually starts on July 1st and goes through June 30th. So we consider our first one that we submit to the state, one that we start planning in July, and we submit usually by the end of November. We can submit it as late as December and then take a little break. And then in January, we start talking about a new one and complete that one. We try to complete the second one by the end of April. We can submit it as late as May, the end of May. But the reason we like to turn them in by April is that May is a real difficult month for Gisela. She's working on the budget for the following year. So we want to make sure that we submit them as early as possible so that she can get that taken care of and concentrate on the budget for the next year. Any questions on what we teach and when before I go on to the next slide?
Dennis.
Yes.
I was always under the impression we could just do them throughout the year. So teach 2 things in the fall and then retest in the spring and submit them both.
We can. It's a way of us keeping track of it. It's sort of an easier accountability if we just set a time and say, let's submit one in December and one in April. But it really doesn't matter. If you want to turn both of them in April, that's fine.
Great. Thank you.
Sure. How do we choose which survival skill we teach? Now, I I like to give the student a lot of input because they're going to choose something that means something to them, and they're going to be more motivated to learn it, learn the English that they're going to get by learning this life skill. So I like to just ask them. I know on my first day, one of my students, Arturo, I said, "So why did you decide to take English?" And he said, "I have two children, a third grader and a fifth grader, and I want to be able to help them in school. I want to be able to help them in homework and be able to talk to their teacher." So that one right away told me I should do the school communication one. So that was easy choosing that one. The student that I have right now, about a year and a half ago, he said that he had to take his mother to the hospital, not to the hospital, to a doctor. And he was worried because his English wasn't real good, but his mother had no English. So he went with his mother to help his mother out. And I said, well, let's do the one here on healthcare then. So we started learning all the vocabulary for healthcare so he could help his mother go to the doctor. I had one student who we were in the middle of one of the other life skills, and I found out suddenly that he didn't have a driver's license. He was driving without a driver's license. And I said, "Ooh, that's not good. So let's make a quick switch." And so we worked on the DMV services and got him his driver's license. In fact, I've helped two students get their driver's licenses now. Anyone else have input? Someone who's already had experience with this? Anyone want to share a little story that they had about selecting one? Sure, go ahead, Joanne.
Yeah, I also had a young mom with students at middle school level, and they had special needs. So I gave her some tips on meeting the SST team, her teacher, and they had a student study team on campus. So it was helpful to her. And I also gave her some handouts that I had in my file cabinets about ADHD and other ways of helping your student, both in class and at home.
I will bet that most of our students who have children in school don't know that. So that's a wonderful thing to share with them. So what resources do we already have and where do we find them?
Oh, can I just say one thing?
Definitely,
so
Carol, go ahead.
yeah, I think those are all really good examples you both gave. I think another thing we can do, which I've done, is to give the list to the student, or tell the list to the student and ask them which one they would like to do, because then they'll be picking something that they need and that they're interested in.
Definitely. Good. Thanks for sharing that. So let's look at our resources. I put together a little 3 little slides to help you find it. Has everyone had an opportunity to go and look at the resources that we have? Good. I see lots of nodding heads. So if you just type in Santa Cruz or Literacy Program of Santa Cruz, then this is the page that will pop up. And if you look down the left-hand side, you'll see right here, it says resources for tutors. So you click on that one and it'll bring up a page. It'll be the same page, the same picture. You need to scroll down a little bit and you'll find down here the online and downloadable resources and literacy survival skills. So click on literacy survival skills. And you'll see several choices here. Right here, I don't know if you can see this very well. Is it too small for you?
Okay.
Good. Life survival skills assessments right here. You can go into this site and look at all the assessments. And I will actually lead you through these because I want to talk about some of the assessments and some of the resources. And then here are resources for their survival skills. So you can see our first one is on emergencies. If you click on that, you will find all of our resources that we have so far for emergencies. So I'm going to go back and I'm actually going to go out of this one. I'm going to stop the share. And I'm going to show you what you will be going through. I'll start another share. And I will go to the web. And let's see. So I'm going to start a new page here, and I'm going to just type in literacy program. Oop. And notice that it comes up right here because I've looked for this before on this computer. So I can click Literacy Program of Santa Cruz. Here is our Volunteer Center Literacy Program. I'll click on it. Here is our opening page. And you can see down here on the left, resources for tutors. Now, the first time you go in to see it, you might see this page closed up like this, where it just says Literacy Program. And if you click on Literacy Program, it'll open it up and you can go down and look for resources for tutors. Click on it and you see you get the same page. So you have the impression nothing happened. But if you scroll down, you'll see, yes, resources for teachers. And right down here, we see literacy survival skills. So let's go ahead and click on that one. And it opens it up to several options, including the assessments. So we could go in here and see, notice it says assessments 1 through 6. It doesn't include 7 in here yet, but I'll show you where you can find that. So here's life survival skill 2, on down to our last one here is 6, the DMV. I'm going to go back and look at one of the resources. Is there one that you would like me to choose that someone's working on that you haven't looked in here yet? I can choose any one of these. Does anyone want to call out one they would like me to choose?
Yeah.
DMV, I heard, okay. So here's the DMV one. All of them start out the same way. They list the different tasks that we have to teach. So in DMV, we have to teach them road signs and signals, identify car types and parts, and list driver's license requirements. Those are the 3 things that are required. Task 4 and 5 are for intermediate and advanced students, responding to a traffic citation and persuading a person to follow safe driving laws. That's a fun one because they have to convince someone of something, and that's not easy to do in another language. Then resources, you can see Oxford Picture Dictionary has a lot of good pages on that. And that's the 3rd edition. I think all of us tend to have the 3rd edition. I have an older one. I have the 2nd edition, but we have pages for that also. And here are some pages out of side by side. There aren't very many listed, so there's not much on the DMV. You look at the others, you'll see that there are quite a few pages that cover the others. I heard someone starting to say something. Did someone have a question? Okay.
I do. Can we repeat the same one like a year later? Because my student doesn't remember stuff.
And I've had my student for 3 years now, and I've done 2 a year. So we finished 6 in actually this spring. So we started repeating one. He chose the one on not nutrition, the medical. He healthcare. He chose that one. So we're doing that one a 2nd time. And yes, his level is much higher now. So he has to get more points in order to pass. And I can teach him a lot more vocabulary, go into more depth for it. So yes, you can repeat them. Okay. There's information about how to teach some lesson plans, teaching the different tasks. You can see that there's a page that has a lot of road signs, since task 1 is identifying different road signs. you can see that there are lessons on all of the different tasks. Task 2, lesson plans for task 3, lots of lesson plans. There's the task 4 was about getting a traffic citation. So there's information on that. I remember I actually went online and found a copy, an image of somebody's traffic ticket. And I was able to print that out, and we were able to sit down and talk about it and say, okay, so why did this person get a traffic ticket? I think it was speeding. So we were able to discuss what the traffic ticket looked like. And so he had a good idea. Hopefully he won't ever have to see one for himself. So that gives you a pretty good idea of the different resources. With the new one that we have now, of course, we don't have resources for it yet. So if any of you choose to do the new one, let me go back and show you something else. So at the bottom of our resources, we have 2 new links that were just put in here. We submitted about 1 week ago, number 7, navigating our community, and a redo of the banking system. The one on the banking system, one of the tasks was to create your own budget. And we felt that that was not appropriate for us to know what their budget is, how much their rent is, how much money they're sending home to family in Mexico. So we wanted to get rid of that one. We changed it to things that we think are more updated, more appropriate. And if we click on that one, it doesn't give us resources on it yet. So I think that they put this in the wrong location. Since we sent it in only a little over a week ago, in 1 week's time, the state came back and approved it. And that's,
Wow.
yeah, I was amazed. I was impressed. So we have only recently put this in on the website, and I see that instead of putting it in the test, the assessment section, it is actually in the resources section. So we've got tasks for 5 here, and also for the new one. I think it might be worth taking a second and looking at the new one. Here's the navigating our community, and let me see if I can enlarge that. No, that didn't work. Okay. I just switched it to 2 sheets instead of making it larger. So you can, I can barely read it here. Is it worth, I'll ask you first, do you want me to tell you anything about the new one that came up since no one's learned about it yet? Okay.
Well, Dennis Isella sent us copies of that in an attachment with an email, but I was not able to download the assessment itself.
Ah, and now you know where you can find it. It's right
sorry,
in
for
the
number 5.
resources. Number 5 and 6 are right there in the resources. So now you have a copy of it. You can go download it there.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. So task 1 is find
I'm able to enlarge it on my own screen
Okay, good.
just by pinching and enlarging it, so I can see it clearly.
Good.
I don't know if
Task 1
anybody
is
else can do that.
find important community agencies on a map. So reading a map is important. Looking at where the police station is, where schools are, where the fire station is, where library branches are. Those are the types of things that we want to get them to try. And in fact, I know I'm going to do this one in the spring. I'll start it in mid-January probably with my student, and I'll start accumulating resources that I'll create. So if anyone takes this one on and you start teaching this one, any materials that you develop for this, please share with me. I would like to put them on the page of our resources and add everything in there. Task 2 is describe the services provided at the police station. What do the police do? Why would you go to the police station and ask for help? How about City Hall? How about the library? Task 3 is ask questions and make statements about location and hours. So we want to do a role play with them and get them involved in talking about answering questions like, when does the library open? What days is it open later than other days? So that they can get a lot of vocabulary for the library. And task 4 is only for intermediate and advanced students. And in this one, they actually have to research one place in the community and describe visitor information about that place and its cultural or historical importance. So it's kind of a neat one that we thought we would enjoy doing. We'll probably work on developing the one on nutrition to submit it in for next year. So hopefully we'll add number 8, nutrition. Right now we have nutrition listed, but it's not officially sanctioned by the state. So they don't approve of it, so we don't get any money for teaching it. Any questions? All right, I will stop sharing this and I'll go back to the,
Oh, I have a question.
yes.
Going back to the printed version.
Okay.
What is meant by the baseline scores?
And that's the very next slide that I'm going to bring up.
Oh,
So I
okay,
will
good.
explain that in just a minute here.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see, this is the one that I want. So are you seeing my cursor here, the timeline, assessments, and skills?
Yes.
Good. So I will go on to the next slide that says, what's the difference between baseline scores and final scores? How about that? So here is an example. Here is Life Survival Skill 1, the one on communicating in an emergency. Notice that there are 2 lines up here. One says baseline score and the other says total final score. Our baseline score is just finding out what they know right now when we start the unit. So let's say that I have a new student and the emergency one is the easiest one to teach. So if you're a new tutor, it's the best one to start with, the easiest one for you to get used to. And for a new student, it's the easiest one to do. So, and probably the most important one too. So if you look at this, the first thing I do is I sit down with my student, and we used to say, this is a test, let's see what you know. And it kind of frightens them. So I try to make them feel totally relaxed. I pull this out and say, okay, you chose to do the one on communication in emergency. Even if I chose it, I talk them into thinking that it's their choice, this is the best one for them to choose. So I say that you chose the one on communicating in an emergency. So let's see what you already know, because I don't want to waste your time teaching you things that you already know. So let's just get a basic idea, and that's our baseline score. Let's get a basic idea of what you already know. And so I'm going to enlarge this for myself so I can read it more easily. The first thing it says that they have to show that they know how to call 911 for 1 point. And so I say, do you know if there is an emergency? Do you know how to contact someone to get help? And if they say yes, I take out my phone. I say, show me that you know how to dial 911, but don't do it. And so they call up the phone part of it. They get the dial and they show me that they can push 911. And I say, good. And I like to use a real easy system here. 911 is worth a point. Each one of these other 8 items in the first one is worth 2 points. So if they don't do the task at all, then I just leave it blank. And I say, okay, that's one for us to work on. If they do it well enough to get 1 point, I put a check. If they do it well enough to do 2 points, I put a plus. So the first one says, name the emergency. And so I might show them a picture of an accident and I ask them, can you tell me what this emergency is? And if they just say accident, I would say, okay, they understood my question. They were able to come up with one word that it was. We don't know that it's a car accident yet, so I can't give them 2 points. They didn't make a whole sentence, so I'm not going to give them 2 points. But they just said accident. So I think that's worth a point. They know something. So I'll put a check and I'll say, well, that's good. You know what an accident is? Let's try a couple more. And I might show them a fire, a flood, a couple other things that might happen in the area. And if they can say them and say a good sentence, I'll give them a plus. And at the end of going through these 8, such as give his or her name, if my student says, my name is Arturo, I would say, okay, that's worth a check. He didn't give his last name. The dispatcher wants to know the entire name. So I would give him a check at this time. And I'm not concerned about the score. I just want to get a basic idea. And so I move on to the next one. Give location of the emergency. And if I say, where is the emergency? And he says, Santa Cruz. That's probably not worth anything right now because Santa Cruz is big enough that the police will have no idea where to go. So I'll say, can you be more specific? Can you tell me the street, location? So if they give me a basic idea, I might give a check. If they give a good description of the street corner, I'll give it a plus. And go through some of these others. And then after we're done, I will look at my checks and pluses, and I will put a score over here on the baseline score and a date. And usually for a beginner, they might have 4 or 5 points because they really don't know very much. They're just learning. And so the important thing is that we show that by spending time with us learning about emergencies and calling 911, they learn enough to get enough points to pass. So if my student as a beginner only had 4 points here, and then after working with them, I see that it says here, beginner passes with a score of 8. So I know that I have to teach that student enough to get them past 8 points. And as I work with them week by week, a little bit at a time, towards the end of it, when I feel like they've learned enough, I will do a role play with them and say, let's see how you do. And if he does well, and I say, next time we're going to do it officially, and I think that you'll be able to get enough points. And the next time I'll bring the sheet in and I'll go ahead and do it like a normal test. And if he passes, I'll mark down the final score and we're done. I can submit that to ISELA to turn into the state. If he doesn't get enough points, let's say that he only gets 7. And I say, I think we still have a couple things to work on. I won't write anything in here yet. I won't put the date or the final score. I'll just say, let's work on the things that you had trouble with, and let's do it again next week and see if we can't pass it next week. Okay? I've been doing a lot of talking, so I would love to hear from another experienced tutor, some comments or experiences that you've had.
I can say that I've done this life skill many times, and practicing over and over, just a pretend situation really helps. And I had an experience where I had a student who was a caregiver, and we had been practicing this in class, and she had an experience with her patient, and her patient had a stroke, and she picked up her phone, dialed 911, forgot to say I speak Spanish, and did the whole thing in English.
Wow.
And came back to class and told I had a little class at that time, told everybody she was so proud that she had just done this, and the people in the emergency room said, you saved your patient's life. And so she was thrilled. This is a very valuable skill. For anybody that's a parent, anybody that has older parents or anybody that's a caregiver, I think this skill is the first one to make sure you do.
Great story, Carol. Thanks. Yeah, I skipped over number 7 on this one. 7 says, ask for someone who speaks the Hispanic language.
Mhm.
I usually don't teach them that until the very end. I want them to be able to get the points without being able to say, asking for someone who speaks Spanish. All right.
So I have a question. What do you do if you do the pre-assessment and they actually get enough points to pass? Would you just move on to the next skill?
I probably would. I would say you know enough for your level right now. If you want, we can do it anyway. And as long as you show improvement, like let's say that it was a beginner and they score a 9. So they already show that they know how to do that one. And if you practice with them and you bring them up to a 15, it shows good progress. I think that we would get our money for that. I am not worried about it. I think that what she learns is more important. And so if the state says, nope, sorry, we can't give you that because she didn't pass up, I think that they actually do, but if they don't give us the money, that's all right. We'll get by.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. So what are some of your questions and challenges? I'm going to stop the share so we can see each other a little bit better. And
I just tried to get to the resources for the 2 new. Maybe I missed this, but on the resources, I could see the steps and everything for all of the first ones, but the last 2, it just took me to the assessment page rather than showing a lesson plan. So I don't know if I did it wrong or, well, I mean, but I was able to see the lesson plans for everything except the last 2 on the list.
oh yeah, we haven't created resources yet for the last 2.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's why.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Any other questions? Yes, Angela.
My student is a low beginner, and I'm finding a challenge just to even explain what the life skills are. I want to start with the emergency and just even trying to let her know that what I want to teach her. So just to even introduce is a challenge.
Any thoughts from any of you experienced tutors?
If you use the picture dictionary, you might show her a picture of one of the emergency situations. Like I think there's one that's a fire or an earthquake, and using the picture, you could maybe get across the idea that this is an emergency. This is something that could happen in her life. And pictures really help with a very beginner student.
And just let her know, like show her the photo and just let her know that I'm going to help her know what to do if that happens.
Yeah.
And if she's a low beginner, then she's just anxious to learn English.
Right.
And if you just say this is part of learning English, these are important skills for you to learn, I think that she would just accept it.
Okay.
Well,
She's
that's
very
part of-
eager.
Good.
Just okay. Thank you.
Then probably just don't worry about it. Just go with it and just teach it to her.
Okay. Thanks.
Is she a Spanish speaker or?
She is, yes.
Is? Because you know, sometimes you can use like if you just wanted to get her to understand, you know, this dial 911 in an emergency, say, you could work with the Google Translate and then help her and then teach her the vocabulary for it, just so she at least understands the concept first.
Right. That's what I want to make sure she understands the concept of what we're learning. That's a good idea. Thank you.
Any other questions, challenges?
But I believe the phone book also used to have it, emergency services listed bilingually. So you could use a bilingual resource. And
Okay.
she could probably know how to call them in Spanish, right? And then
Right.
the
I'm sure
concept might
she,
translate.
right. Good.
And young people hardly ever use a phone book anymore. They do everything through their
Right.
phone.
Right.
It's on your phone.
So if we don't have other questions, how about some tips or some ideas, experiences that you had in teaching one that you discovered a shortcut or a wonderful thing that works for teaching that particular one? Anyone have anything they would like to share?
I have something I'd like to share with my student. I just absolutely love the side-by-side books. They're so intuitive, and the way they go from one page to the next. And we have class for a little over an hour usually, and we can spend that entire hour just on one page. First doing the questions, and then kind of talking about them, and relating experiences that go with the questions. So on Monday when we had class, I'm on Side by Side Plus book number 3, and let's see, we're on page 40. And on Monday we started. I was really anxious how to explain to her what participles were. I didn't even know how to explain them to myself. I just knew how to use them from, say, maybe the 4th grade or the 5th grade. And it is amazing how she picked it up. It was kind of like I could watch her brain, and she'd be struggling with something, and I'd explain maybe 2 or 3 different ways, and I would say, "Do you understand what I mean?" And she'd be hesitant, and she'd want to say yes, but it really wasn't yes. And probably about halfway down the page, it was like watching a light bulb go off in her head. And she picked it up immediately after struggling with it for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. And oh, it's just amazing. I feel like she went from an intermediate to an advanced student in participles. And I had her go over the page with me 2 or 3 times, and she doesn't like to do that. She wants to move on. So I explained to her about, practicing and doing it out loud at home. And by the 3rd time of us doing that page, she was just whizzing right through it, and I'm still in awe of her because we've spent several years going from almost having no English whatsoever to beginner, and then she's been an intermediate for a long time. After she had first there was COVID, then there was her baby, and so pretty much her interest level her interest and her time, available time, has gone down. And I feel so uplifted from our class on Monday to see. I think it was uplifting for her as well, because I think she feels like she's turned a corner. And I said, Elvia, you're going to be teaching English pretty soon. And she just seems kind of delighted with herself. So we both loved our class, and I'm really amazed at how she got the grasp of really something for me to explain to her. It's pretty difficult, and I don't know any Spanish, so I would just have to explain it,
Well, she's moving up to the intermediate level. You don't need to worry
yeah,
about taking
yeah.
Spanish with her anymore at all.
And so anyway, I really love these side-by-side books. They're just excellent.
Good. So back to life skills. Does anyone have anything else they would like to share on life skills? Either a question or a tip?
Well, for me, I started doing the emergency one, and then I just felt like it just got really depressing like talking about these horrible tragedies every time we met. I just kind of wanted to like
No.
take a break from it because it was just really a downer, especially after the election and everything. I just wonder if anyone else has experienced that.
Yes.
I always like to add a little humor to it, and
Mhm.
either with the pictures. In fact, I've created a sheet where I go on to Google Images, not the pictures, actual pictures, but not animation. What do I want to say? Designs. If you look up designs, you can find some really clever ones that are not depressing and that are fun to use.
Okay.
Any other comments from anyone? Donna?
I just really like the pacing and the fact that we only have to do 2 a year, and the resources are really good. So I find that it's very doable, and you only have to do just a little bit every week and just keep working on it. And I can't wait to see what we come up with for our new navigating our community, because I've been working with my student now for 3 years. So doing 2 a year, we've gone through all of them now. So I'm really looking forward to, in the spring, starting with navigating our community and checking out the brand new one.
Good, thanks. And again, I'm going to ask you if you do take on the new one or the revised banking one, if you create new materials, please share. We'd love to add them to the resources. In fact, some of our resources are a bit dated. So I think that we need to go in and upgrade all of them, but we're going to focus on the new one. So if you ever do have something that you create for any of the life skills and you think that it would help other tutors, please send it to me and I'll see if I can add it to our page. Well, thank all of you for coming, and I hope that you got something out of this and enjoy working with your student.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Great.
much.
Thank you.
Very helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
How do I do this?